So Major League Soccer decided they would be the first ones to sort of allow practices to happen. They are individual. They have rules and restrictions as far as he's saying no passing and no shooting between players. Have you been able to experience this yet? And can you detail what it's like?
Yeah, so we just had our first day today. We had about an hour Zoom call meeting between the whole team yesterday, just going over all the little details. We had aerial camera shots of the parking lot, the fields, the space we were going to be working in, step-by-step instructions. So, I mean, it was detailed, I mean, down to the T. So we were one of five teams that got approved in MLS to go ahead with this kind of test run or the approval to do individual training at the facility. So today when we showed up, we were split into three different groups. So defenders with goalkeepers and then midfielders and forwards, three different time slots. Basically, they took two full-sided fields, split it into four different quadrants, and each player got their individual quadrant to work in. You park in the parking lot. You're separated by one parking spot stall between each car. You're called one by one to walk from your car to
Okay.
basically the front gate to enter. You have to wear a mask at all times. You can't leave your car until you're called upon. You check in at the front desk. You stand there, get your temperature read. We also have to fill out a questionnaire if you're feeling any symptoms or any signs of illness before you leave actually home that morning to go in. Once you're approved, you walk over to your quadrant where you've got a stool there to get your cleats on, put on whatever you need. It's sanitized before and after each player, and then you've got your equipment there in your quadrant. You have to kind of work and do your session. Same thing on the way out. You have to put your mask back on as you leave. You do a checkout. You kind of get your any protein drinks on the way out, and then return to your car one by one. And then the next group is called in. So you've got one coach that's allowed to be on the field, kind of in the middle, overseeing kind of limited personnel that's out there, and that's kind of the setup. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. It's intense, man. I mean, I feel like you're a second away from being hosed down like a zoo animal. I mean, what an incredible I can't imagine. I mean, did you see other players and just sort of give like a hi? Like you can't like hey guys, like you can't even really converse.
Yeah, I mean, you have your staff there that's kind of making sure everyone keeps their distance. I mean, I must say I think just having the unknown and not knowing when we were going to return, what the steps were going to look like, it's just been so far in the future and just not knowing. I think being granted this to just return to our training facility, I mean, the energy was upbeat today. I mean, even
Good.
seeing guys at a distance and kind of returning to something that was quote unquote normal for us, being at least in a familiar place with our training ground. Um, the mood was definitely lifted. I think guys could see a little bit light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, just the first step towards something familiar was exciting, but at the same time, it was just kind of a stark contrast that you're doing it under just all of these different conditions and protocol. And I think any athlete, ever since you're young, you're so used to just going out to a field or training, and you kind of have that's your routine that you've been doing for your entire life, and to have it this different and controlled and strict was it was definitely a wake up call and a
Yeah.
surprise to see what the landscape of sports is going to look like kind of moving forward here.
Totally. I mean, if that's a practice, I hate to think what a game is.
Yeah, I mean, we were even instructed if a ball were to leave one of your quadrants, the other player in that quadrant had to step out of their box and allow the player to come in, grab their ball, go back, and then they could resume.
Oh my
So,
God.
I mean, I think everything was thought of, and it's they're trying to run it as efficient and I think as safe as possible.
I mean, it sounds like they're doing a good job. I mean, did they make you keep the masks on? Well, it sounds like because you're out of the quadrant, you don't have to have the mask on.
So, fortunately, the players were able to take their mask off to train. So when you're in your space, you're allowed to have it off. But all of the staff, the personnel that are there, kind of helping out and managing, they had to keep masks on and gloves on at all times.
Oh my God. And you got to take hit, you got to take shots, you got to actually play goalkeeper?
No, so I mean, we're not allowed to work with coaches. So I mean, I was there kind of doing some of my own ball work, own goalkeeper fitness. It's tough
Yeah.
trying to come up with stuff when you can't really recreate it without someone taking shots. So just did my best to kind of do what I could, but at least had access to a nice field, to goals, to equipment that I usually wouldn't have on my own.
Yeah.
So, in order to communicate with the players, did they have to use some sort of like PA system?
No, so the day before they sent us just videos of all the drills they wanted us to perform, the ball work, dribbling, the fitness. So they had everything set up when we got there. And we kind of had to do our homework the night before to be prepared, to kind of know what we were supposed to do that day. I mean, you didn't get in close contact with anybody. I mean, even the training staff reading your temperature, you were standing far enough away. They had some people from the league that were filming and recording and just making sure it was kind of to send out to other teams, I think, just to show what the protocol would be, what it would look like, making sure that we were adhering to it as well. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it was surreal. I think being in, especially with a newborn, being in quarantine for so long, you're kind of in your little bubble and you're like, oh, we're taking a little break, we're going to resume. And I think I was very naive and optimistic about just when this was lifted, just being able to return to training and it was going to be normal like you're
Yeah.
used to. And I think showing up today is when it really sunk in and just it hit me like, wow, we still have a long ways to go before we get back to anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That looks,
you're not getting within 15 feet of players. How are we going to play against each other or with each other? I mean, I guess it'll get better, but it's crazy to think of.
yeah. Yeah.